This video is brought to you by...
What's up, kings and queens? It's your girl, Charlotte Moore. As always, we give thanks for another day, you dig? So as the CEO and founder of Motivational More, we take pride in working with incredible creative entrepreneurs. And today, we are shooting a campaign for Cool Green Clothing, founded by the one and only AC Green. So the vibrational energy of this line is all about street vibes, a growth mindset, hustle. So today, we are highlighting this, guys, the Baltimore Cool Green Snapback. How cute is this? Look at this. So we're going to have so much fun on the shoot. And I'm telling you, follow Cool Green Clothing. It's so important for us to support our entrepreneurs. There's so much talent in Baltimore. And as a creative entrepreneur myself, I know how hard it is. And I love to see just people going out there and going for their dreams. So let's get it.
What's up, YouTube fam? It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another video. In this episode of The Baltimore Way, I'll be discussing the case of Tyra Phillips Womack, a beloved gospel radio host who tragically lost her life over a dispute with her neighbor. Before we get into this video, please don't forget to subscribe if you're new to our channel. Go ahead and click that notification bell to get notified every time we upload. If you're rocking with the content, smash that like button. Feel free to share this video with everyone you know. Make sure you watch until the end to hear the full story. All right, let's jump right into it. Tyra Antoinette Womack, professionally known as Tyra Phillips, was born on August 2nd, 1962. Tyra graduated from high school in 1980. She later attended college at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. She graduated in 1984 with her BA in English Language and Literature. Ms. Womack also received her diploma in news and radio from the Broadcasting Institute of Maryland. In 1989, Ms. Womack began working for WEAA 88.9 FM as an announcer for the radio program Gospel Grace, which airs on Sundays. Tyra Womack was loved and revered in her community. Many looked forward to hearing her voice on Sundays as she filled the airways with updates from the church community, gospel's greatest hits, inspirational quotes, and uplifting messages. Not only did Ms. Womack volunteer at the radio station, she also worked as an administrative assistant at the U.S. Postal Service for over a decade, according to her LinkedIn profile. According to the Baltimore Sun, Ms. Womack and her family have been members of First Apostolic Faith Church in East Baltimore for several generations. Tyra sang in the church choir and took part in Sunday school weekly. Ms. Womack remained dedicated to attending church even during the height of the pandemic by logging on to online sessions faithfully. Ms. Womack and her son had lived at her home in East Baltimore on Albion Avenue for many years, according to reports. She and most of the residents in the area were well acquainted. However, there was one man who reportedly got into disagreements frequently with just about all the neighbors, including Ms. Womack. According to reports, the man had a long history of disputes with neighbors that spanned several years, with some disputes reportedly resulting in court cases. I assume that despite the friction, the neighbors for the most part did their best to get along. But sadly, things would take a terrible turn one night in June 2020. According to reports, on June 10, 2020, between 8 and 9 p.m., 57-year-old Tyra Womack had gone for an evening walk and was returning home as 9 p.m. approached. According to what family members told news reports, Tyra's son was waiting for her on the front porch. As she approached her home on the quaint Lauraville Street, court documents say Ms. Womack saw two neighbors getting into a disagreement and stepped in between the two men in an attempt to defuse the situation. Tragically, things would only get worse as the quarrel escalated and shots rang out. Tyra Womack had been hit multiple times during the dispute and was reportedly able to make it to a neighbor's house where they called 911. The alleged shooter had fled on foot, still armed, according to what witnesses said. According to reports, Baltimore police responded to the call for the shooting at approximately 8:52 p.m. in the 2400 block of Albion Avenue. First responders found Tyra Womack gravely wounded just steps outside of her home. She was rushed to Johns Hopkins Hospital for treatment. As the news spread about Tyra, her family and church family all gathered together in support and prayer outside Johns Hopkins as they waited to hear news of her condition. Sadly, medical personnel would have to break the devastating news that Tyra Womack had succumbed to her injuries. All who knew and loved Tyra would say that their hearts were broken. They were numb and or traumatized after losing her in such a tragic way. Tyra was explained to be one of the most unlikely people that something like this would happen to. As the family and community came together to remember and honor Tyra Womack, BPD had revealed that they had a person of interest, 56-year-old Richard Sylvester Green, who had later become a suspect. Police said Tyra Womack and Richard Green lived on the same block. 3 days after Miss Womack's passing, detectives had obtained an arrest warrant and were asking anyone with information about Richard Green's whereabouts to call police. According to reports, witnesses identified him as the man that did the unthinkable to Tyra. According to records, during the alleged altercation, police said Richard Green allegedly shot Miss Womack with a semi-automatic and then fled. Richard Green is also the person who allegedly always got into it with his neighbors. Miss Womack and Richard had also gone back and forth in court, according to what family members told reporters. Family members also alleged that things got so bad between Richard Green and Miss Womack to the point the police were called. Despite the past issues between Tyra and Richard, police did not release a motive. Officers had considered Richard Green armed and dangerous. There are also reports where families said that Tyra Womack lost her life while protecting her son, shielding him from the gunfire. Tyra's sister told news reporters that in her mind she felt Richard wanted to hurt her sister and take her one and only son's life. She told WMAR as her sister came home from her walk, the neighbor, Richard Green, randomly started shooting allegedly. She said he was in his trunk. He didn't say anything to them. He just started shooting at my nephew. She ran across the street to the neighbors. She didn't even know she got hit. The only reason he stopped was because he ran out of bullets. When he ran out of bullets, he walked down the street and told the people who walked outside and said, "I'll shoot you too, I'll shoot you too," and ran off. According to reports, Tyra's son was not hit. Tyra was known for her infectious smile with deep dimples and had a beautiful, gentle, and sweet spirit. On June 16, 2020, after 6 days on the run, Baltimore police arrested Richard Green. According to news reports, he was taken into custody after trying to run from a bus stop in the 8600 block of Philadelphia Road in Rosedale. He was charged with Tyra Womack slaying, firearms, and assault charges. According to a BPD detective, ultimately, Richard Green did admit to his involvement in the case. Detectives say he didn't go into a motive, but from what they understood, there had been an ongoing dispute not only with Tyra, but her son as well. A preliminary court hearing was set for August 2020. He was facing life in prison. Almost a year would go by before Richard Green would receive a trial date. According to BaltimoreWitness.org, during a July 2021 hearing, prosecutors presented him with an offer of life with all but 50 years suspended and 5 years probation. However, Richard Green's attorneys said they had not, at the time, relayed the offer to their client. The trial was scheduled for October 2021. However, on September 29, 2021, Richard was granted a mental health competency evaluation. Just a few days later, on October 6, there was a court hearing for Richard Green. However, the hearing was private. Outsiders were not allowed to be in the courtroom. Richard himself did not appear at that hearing. According to reports, Richard Green was found incompetent to stand trial in 2021. He was committed for first-degree hit, 3 counts of using a firearm, attempted first-degree hit, and the assault charge. However, based on a report that was given to a judge on October 5, 2022, Richard Green had restored competency and could be transferred to a detention center with all the required medical services, according to sources. His attorneys would question the doctor's results of the competency review. They rejected the findings, describing Richard as going off on tangents and him as having difficulties staying on topic, as well as explaining the incident as all a conspiracy against him. Richard Green, however, told the court that day he had never said the word conspiracy and felt like he was being misrepresented. The judge said during the hearing that rather than ignore the issues with the doctor's report, both sides will reconvene and allow the doctor who made the report to attend. Richard Green's next hearing was scheduled for October 12th. But upon further research, I was unable to find any more information on Tyra's case or updates on Richard Green's status. Now, what does it mean that Richard Green's competency is restored? Well, according to Google, after a defendant is restored to competency, they will return to the court system to enter a plea, have a trial, or in some manner adjudicate their case. Richard Green is innocent until proven guilty. I hope and pray that justice for Tyra Phillips Womack is served. My prayers and my deepest and most heartfelt condolences to Tyra's son, family, friends, and all who knew and loved her. May she continue to rest peacefully. According to scripture, as a believer, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. Wow, fam, this is such a senseless and unexplainable loss. Tyra Phillips Womack was clearly a pillar in her community. It seemed like she wanted to bring peace to a volatile situation, all while protecting her son. I wish that things could have turned out differently and that their complaints about this neighbor didn't fall on deaf ears. In my opinion, from the years of reported ongoing disputes, it seemed like it was only a matter of time until it had gone too far. And unfortunately, it did. And to one of the most undeserving individuals. It's just all very sad. All right, fam, tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. That's it for this episode of The Baltimore Way. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 Times, and I'm out.